Good man.
Just don't tell anyone.
Yeah, no, it's all good. A funny meme. I don't know who made this, but I saw someone tweeted it to me. The one I just replied to the your tweet with, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah, what's good, everyone? Welcome to the show. We're back again, baby. Change of background today, different location. You know the vibe. We had to move everything back yesterday. Crone's back.
I'm back.
Crone's back. Austin's back. What's good, Austin? We well?
We're missing Lineman today.
Had to put dinner in the oven.
But apparently, Lineman might join in as a special call-in guest. It's possible. I'm not saying it's guaranteed or the likelihood is high, but it's possible if he wakes up, which could happen. So yeah, we'll see about that. Yeah, welcome everyone. Crone's back again. How was last week, by the way? I know you had to miss the show due to some.
Yeah, it was good. Now my son just had a minor surgery because he's a baby. They had to put him to sleep and then put a tube down his throat so he could breathe. So it was like a little bit scary, but it was just like, yeah, he was born with like this thing inside his lip there, and it had to get removed. So it wasn't anything crazy. But he still had to stay in for a couple of days just because he's 5 months old.
Yeah, no, well, good to hear. Good to hear it all went well. So that's a W doctor right there. Hopefully, yeah, you got to talk to these New Zealand doctors for sure. Okay, good stuff. Well, anyway, lots to talk about today. There's been, honestly, big weekend of COD. Every match is big right now. And it's even spicier because OpTic might have the full team. And Autistic Goose, as you just mentioned, Boston Academy team. I think we can touch on that at the start. I wrote these topics on Monday. So by the time it's today, we need a bit. Well, there's a couple of other things that have happened. So we will talk briefly Boston Academy, and then we will dive into the matches, I guess. Toronto Ultra Academy NA as well. Well, I mean, I saw Scrappy went 33-12 in the elite, or is it the playoffs? The elite playoffs are going on right now. Why do they start on?
Grand finals on right now.
Why is it Tuesday, Wednesday?
Because the league is usually
on the weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. Makes sense, I guess. Makes sense.
It's so you have COD pretty much Tuesday through Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. It makes sense. Fair enough. I'll tell you what I've got, boys. The snack here today. Grandma clutched up with these yogurt coated raisins. Absolute bangers.
Delicious.
Yeah, delicious. The yogurt coated raisins also good. I was always kind of unsure which one I preferred, but chocolate does hit different, more consistent for sure. What episode are we on, Omar? 71. Come on. Come on, the boys. Okay, cool. Should we crack on? Might as well.
Yes, sir.
We good to go? Okay, fantastic. 71. We're doing all right, guys. Back shirt is Rab's wall. That's actually true. Their wall is kind of this color. It looks less like this color when it's daylight. It looks like dark in here, but that's just lighting, you know. It's all lighting. Lighting's a trick to everything. All right, let's go. 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, tacticalrab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome to episode 71 of the Breaking Point podcast. We have lots to dive into today. A great first weekend of Major 4 qualifier matchups. The Envy situation. OpTic seemingly have ILLEY back after Shotzzy says that it's all okay now. We'll see about that one over the coming days. But yeah, we've got quite the cast today. Austin, you're back again. Crone's back in business this week. Lion Man, not sure. He may join as like a special call-in, he said. Like, we're doing this one day later than usual because I had to move back from Bath. My kind of tenancies over there, coming back here for a little bit back home, and then probably move into London in a month or so. We'll see about that. But yeah, slight change of location. Should be all good. Crone, how's it going? Back in business, baby. I see you've been dropping a good few Crone bombs. The Capstore thing last night was kind of interesting.
A little something here and there. I'm good though. It's cold here, man. It's like 2 degrees. I'm freezing. But yeah, eager for the matches this weekend.
How's it going, Austin? Got a nice little game 5-er, 12-0 map count. I'm sure Tupac's pretty happy with that one, or 12-0 round count, sorry. Tupac's pretty happy. It's the Katie Bedford effect, man.
Yeah, but doing good. It's another week of grinding scrims and getting ready for matches. So. But it's been good.
Absolutely, yeah. Katie Bedford saved FaZe's season. That's hot take number 1 of the day. Okay. Let's dive into the things that happened before the matches, well, actually after the matches, but we'll talk about these things first. The Envy stuff, we've got to talk about it because big news that came out a couple of days ago is that Envy is now effectively no longer a thing. The ownership group still exists, but the brand Envy within esports is now dead. It felt like this was inevitable when the merger happens because it's kind of a merger, right? But at the same time, Envy effectively bought OpTic. It's kind of the way I perceive it, but they're now rebranding everything as OpTic, which makes sense. OpTic is a bigger brand, especially in esports. I've always felt Envy is a great brand, a legendary brand in COD. Feels bad as a COD fan to not have Envy anymore. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a sensible move, all things considered, and probably an inevitable one. But yeah, just looking back about Envy and COD history, starting from the COD 4 days and the players they've had, the Proofies, the Stainvilles, the Rambos, like the J-Caps, like pretty much every single player you can think of that is relevant in competitive Call of Duty played on Envy at some point or another. It's kind of crazy to think about. So yeah, that organization, that brand name is dead. My kind of hope here is that because I mean, look, OpTic have been speed running these organization deaths the last few years. Infinite Esports, Chicago Huntsmen, like the whole NRG drama, OGLA, Immortals, like there's been a lot of drama going on. And I'm hoping that this is kind of it, you know what I mean? Because I definitely don't want Hastro to find himself in a spot where HECZ decides to leave in a couple of years ago to a different ownership group and then Envy is now dead in the water, which I'm sure they're smart enough not to allow that to happen. But yeah, what do you think, Austin? Kind of a sad day.
Yeah, it is definitely sad to see one of the OG like COD orgs going away. even though they've been like scaling back, you know, they gave away pretty much all their FPS teams to OpTic once they merged, but it's sad to see that it's like never going to come back. Like I assume like everyone already knew it was never going to come back in Call of Duty, but to see it's not going to be in any other esports ever is kind of disappointing. So yeah, it's one of those like sad days, but like one of those days where you kind of can like look back and remember certain things, like, you know, Envy winning the world championship. What was it, Black Ops 3, and you know, all the talent.
Dallas Empire, I guess, as well.
Yeah, Dallas Empire. Yeah, no, it definitely counts. But yeah, just looking back at, you know, even the French CS team they had, just looking at everything, it's pretty awesome to see what they've done over the years.
Yeah, I thought I was. I made a tweet I think 2 days ago, and I was like, I'm pretty sure it was my most replied to tweet I've ever done. About I was asking who the first player you think of when you see the Envy logo. Had like 700 replies, but yeah, I mean, most of us saw this coming from a mile away. Like they rebranded like 3 of their teams to OpTic. It is sad to see though, see an OG team go. And when I first got into Call of Duty, obviously they were like the second team that I actually cared about after OpTic. But yeah, it's sad to see. But I mean, it's a sacrifice we had to make to get OpTic back.
That's a good point. That is a way to look at it, I suppose. Yeah, it's just there's so many great moments. I'm sure we'll have to do some sort of video on the Breaking Point channel about best Envy moments or whatever, because I was just reminding myself of the Envy United comeback, you know, Infinite Warfare, Upplay, Precincts. Like
I've posted like 4 times. So
yeah, no, I do. Yeah, agreed. I think everyone's seen it a million times, but it does never get old, because that is like, that is, if anything, the quintessential Envy team with JCap, like Apathy. Those two especially stand out to me as kind of Envy players through and through, if you know what I mean. So yeah, difficult time, but it is what it is.
It is disappointing that like we've lost Complexity, TK, you know, even OpTic Nation, now Envy, United. Curse was even around for like 3-4 years. And then you think of all like the small ones. Yeah, EG. You think of all the small ones like Epsilon, Prophecy, Thor, like all the VVV, like all the random ones that we used to have. It's just we haven't really seen any of those ever come back, and odds are they're not coming back, which I don't know. It's kind of sad. You know, the Elevates, Rise. Like you're never going to see those names again. I was even thinking
like the, you know, Cloud9, Liquid, you know, these Black Ops. Because I remember when I got into the league in Black Ops 3, I had no idea. Like even TSM was in bloody COD. Pac-Man TSM, unbelievable scenes. Like that was, you know, when I was getting into COD really properly that year, I wasn't aware of like the other esports that those organizations were in. Like I didn't know that TSM was like a big org or anything. Like I just, you know, it was another org to me. But looking back on like the season we had in Black Ops 3 and the orgs that wanted to get involved, and how many of them either departed very quickly or have slowly fallen away. And even when there is rumors about expansion, it's not like it's these organizations getting involved. It's more of your, you know, the Boston guys, right? With whatever his name is. Is it Kraft? Is he the Boston guy, or is the other guy the Kraft guy? Yeah. So it's like people like that, which is cool, don't get me wrong. But it's like the esports people don't seem to think it's a great idea. Which is, you know, maybe times will change. Yeah, G2 is another great example. Black Ops 4. I mean, yeah, G2 methods. Talking about Fear, CLG. Wow, like, yeah, crazy scenes, really. Even Enigma 6, I guess. And Reciprocity deserves a mention. So many good orgs, but nowadays we get Paris Legion. Vegas Legion, sorry. Excited for Vegas Legion.
Do you see the S&D coach left them? That they weren't paying in the first place.
Apox.
He was their assistant coach. Like this.
Oh, the assistant coach, and he wasn't even getting. He wasn't getting paid as assistant coach.
Yeah, but bro, that's so tough because like you're not getting paid one, and the fact of the matter is, who are you impressing on Paris? Like, because the issue is, it's like, oh, I mean, you can say all you want, and he probably did do a good job with Paris. Don't get me wrong, but you have nothing to show for it. Like, you can't say, oh wow, look at our search and destroy record was this good because of me, kind of. Like our record was like 1 in 13. Well, I made us win this map. Like it's kind of tough, especially if you're not getting paid. Like
yeah, I wouldn't put that on my resume.
Just bro, I swear. But yeah, I don't know. Hopefully it works out for Apox though, because it's good to see people that have like in that challengers ecosystem find other ways to make a living. Do you know what I mean? Or like find other ways,
like
like
Equip
other
was one.
revenue sources.
Was he a challenger player or just S&D? S&D player, Equipped.
I think he was
all
S&D
of
guy,
them
but
he was mostly S&D, but I feel like all S&D people at some point or another tried to do respawns.
Yeah.
No, but he's mostly known for S&D.
yeah, apparently he wasn't even getting paid, Jesse. So I mean, he tweeted out, I'm pretty sure. So
Yeah, he hasn't been getting paid all season.
yeah, so there you go. They've done it again. Congratulations, everyone. I'm still throwing in scrims. Don't worry about that one. So anyway, we did touch on Boston briefly. I wanted to mention quickly the Boston Academy. They've done it. They kind of teased it for a while actually, but it's Shawnee, it's Ghosty, it's Volance, something like that, and Doug, of course. Let's go. And they've signed an academy roster. It's pretty cool scenes, to be honest, from Boston. I hope that it kind of carries on because we know right now all the drama around challenges and the state of it and concerns about, and even HECZ has said that he would do an OpTic Academy if it actually makes any financial sense to do so, which probably doesn't right now. Maybe they see something coming next year that we don't, but I thought that was pretty cool anyway. And I don't know, people are talking about it's good to see these guys get supported in that way. And yeah, I don't know, just get Doug back in the league, I reckon, Austin.
Yeah, I'm happy to see another like academy team pop up because they're honestly, I think there's been 2 this year. We usually get like 2 or 3 a year, but I actually kind of like it, like signing him for the end of the year because Volance and Ghosty,
left, right? Or 2 events?
2 events basically, but Volance and Ghosty,
if they qualify.
Yeah, and you could always sell them after the season's done in like August, September. Also depends on when the deal runs to, but Volance and Ghosty have some hype around them, like going into this year. I've like heard about their names a couple of times. So I've seen Ghosty in the Elite. I don't think they've been in the Elite though together as like a team, but yeah, hopefully they do good. I'm rooting for them at the land. So yeah, hopefully they do good because it's always fun when. Come on. Yeah, it's always fun when Doug does good too, man. So
yeah, I saw Shawnee tweeted that. I think they must have been waiting for his visa to be done because he said his visa got redone today and then they announced today. So I'm guessing that's what they were waiting for.
Yeah, that's good news if they like worked him through that or everything, because it's always a nightmare for players outside of the US to get that stuff renewed and stuff. So good news for Shawnee, talented player. Stats haven't told the story of his career, I think. Let's dive into the results this week because there's probably about 7 teams that I want to take a look at. Firstly, New York, they're starting their run, baby. Come on, it begins here. But I really want to believe. I know that it's gonna. I feel like the way it's gonna go is they're gonna get oh so close and then fall short. But I hope they make it. They still can do it. They're 2-0. They beat Florida. They beat LAG. Florida, like honestly, the LAG series was kind of impressive in the manner that they won the respawns. Again, it's kind of like we don't outslay by many, but win by a lot. Even though I think I'd put most of the blame on LAG for that one. We can discuss that in a second. The annoying thing is about this team is that they're easily good enough to be at champs. They should be at champs. Like the team is capable of beating top teams and blowing out teams that aren't particularly good in the respawns. They're an exciting team. It's just unfortunate it took them so long to make this actual good team because they should be there. Like I think they're arguably at least a top 6, if not top 4 in their day team of the game. So I don't know what your guys' thoughts on that are, but I also do wonder, like, I don't know exactly what the roster lock situation is. Surely it's not possible for a team to say.
Locked.
You think it's locked now? Yeah.
I'm like 99% sure it's like,
okay.
If they're not on your roster as a substitute right now, you can't.
Yeah, I tried to ask some people and they said, "Man, that's a good question. I don't know." And then someone did check and they said, "I don't think there is one." And
there was 100% a deadline. There's 100% a deadline.
They said there was a trade deadline.
Yes,
but they weren't sure about the roster lock. But we don't have trades anyway.
Yeah, the most logical place for a trade deadline is before the last major, because just imagine how unfair it would be. But... Yeah, well, like the last stage, it should be before any team gets eliminated. That's why other professional leagues have the roster deadline in the middle of the season, middle of the regular season, not even including the playoffs. So like let's just say like Boston, for example, makes it, but like doesn't look good, and like Florida and New York don't make it. You can imagine if they just gave them Awakening and Hydra on loan for free, and then it's just like go rep us in the playoffs, right? Like that's just so unfair for the rest of the teams that made it. So
it could be to do with COVID, right? Like because players could get COVID, and you have to sign people.
Well, that's what your subs are for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, true.
Oh, and
you don't even know how many people are going to get COVID.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just
you still have subs, coaches.
I'm willing the chaos into reality.
I'm like 99% sure the deadline was before the matches started last week, which is why the transfer window, like you saw the moves happen during that time period, because everyone was kind of just like, this is how you make moves. You have to make moves right now. So
yeah, I don't know. I just think Thieves need to pick up Hydra for champs. That's my thought. But yeah, I mean, thoughts on this New York team right now, guys? Crane, what do you reckon? Are they going to make it? I don't know. They're probably not,
I believe. I believe the COD gods are going to give it to us, and then it's champs is going to be Scump versus Crim, and who knows who's going to win. But I believe in this roster. They have a hard schedule this weekend. They have Seattle. Good luck with that.
Seattle OpTic, I think.
Yeah, and then they have OpTic, which is like, who knows what OpTic we're going to get. I don't know if we're going to get the real ILLEY OpTic or a rusty OpTic.
The problem is I think they're running out of points. They have 95 possible points they can get right now.
Yeah.
And that's if they win everything. That would put them obviously in tied with Seattle right now. But they're running out of points. I just don't know. It's kind of sucks for them that
the other teams are winning.
The other teams are winning. Like I put them at 2%, like 2 to 5% chance of making it. I think realistically, probably like a top 4 is obtainable for them, which would put them at 30 or 20 points. So you're probably looking at between 60 to or 40 to 60 more points they could get realistically, unless they make like some miracle run, and that would put them, basically where LA Thieves is right now. So
yeah.
Starting to run out.
I've been thinking for a while. I don't know what the number's going to be that you need, but I've been thinking something in the 150 range to qualify. So they're going to need quite a lot.
160, 170.
Yeah, maybe 160 I think makes you safe, but maybe 170 definitely makes you safe. 160 could be dodgy. I don't really know, but they're on 90 right now. So that's the thing with them. Like they need to win ideally like 2 of their final 3 games. Obviously, all 3 is best, but if they can go 2 out of 3 and then come like second at the major or win it, then they'll do it. But it relies on them. At least it's in their hands. They don't have to rely on other teams upsetting. They can still win everything and qualify. So it is what it is. One of the teams that's winning around them that's not helping them much is Florida, even though they only were 1-1 on the week. But they did beat. Well, they managed to take down Minnesota at the end of the week in pretty emphatic fashion. Interesting team. I think we kind of got this one right in terms of how it would change, because I think most people said that their search should get better, which it definitely seemed to against Minnesota at least, but their respawn might not be as good because 2Real isn't the player Vivid is. He had a decent second series. The first series was like, it was in the Jimbo category of not particularly impressive debuts, but Jimbo still holds the record, I think. But 2 had like a 0.6, which was tough, but it is what it is when they lost their first series against New York. But yeah, then Major Maniac just got this crazy buff against Rocco and dropped to 1.4 against his former team, which is awesome for him. Like, that's baller as hell. You got to love that storyline. So that's exciting stuff, and he was making the most of milk in the interview, and for good reason, right? They dropped him, he felt disrespected, he came back and he 3'd on their head. Like, you've got to love that. But does he get that buff against other teams? I don't know, Crone.
Honestly, I've never been like a huge fan of like the main AR playstyle, so I've never been like a huge fan of Major Maniac, but he is a great player. He's a really, really good player, and I think a lot of people said it was like a lateral move between him and Dave, but I disagree with that. I think Major Maniac brings a lot more than just the slow style that everyone thinks he is, and I actually think that he sped up his style a little bit in challenges. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but no, I think Major Maniac was an upgrade, and I think he brings a lot of leadership that the Mutineers team was lacking. I think they were a little bit lost at times on the map, and I think he's that guy that can point them in the right direction.
Yeah, I always thought like him coming in was a great pickup for that team, because something they've always said, literally since Modern Warfare, was they kind of like lacked direction and their comms weren't as like clean. They've always had comm issues, literally for 3 years now. And Mike is someone who's not gonna, be a problem with that. He's gonna be one of the solutions for that. And I always thought that was a good fit. I thought there was a big, upgrade going from Dave to him just because of like the intangibles he brings. But not only that, I think he's just a better AR player. The problem that a lot of teams are saying it was a lateral move is because the decrease going from Vivid to 2Real was arguably the same as the upgrade you get from going from Dave to Mike.
I agree.
I still think they're a better team, but now you don't have the chemistry you've had for the last like 3-4 months, which is just tough. Personally, I think Vivid was too fast for the roster, and he couldn't slow down enough. And I think that was the issue with the pacing. Like, you're not going to be able to speed up 3/4 of a team, but you can slow down one person. And sometimes I felt like he had to do a little, like personally, he probably felt he had to do a lot and like always keep the engagements up. And sometimes that it's not smart to be going that fast because no one's there to trade you out. So your engagements aren't positive engagements. They're negative. They're just you wasting lives that could be traded or stuff like that. That's why I always thought like Asem was a good fit to this roster because Asem can go as fast as Vivid. He has in the past, but he can also slow down. He can also like go down a couple gears. So I thought maybe that pacing would be good. We actually made some graphics. I don't know, Omar, if you can bring them up. I guess I'll do the Vivid and 2Real one real quick. We usually talk about stats, but we never really have too many like visual aids. But we wanted to bring up some graphics. The first one is the Vivid and 2Real. So this is the change. Vivid had these stats in stage 3, and then you go to 2Real. Obviously, it's only in 2 series, but like this is the difference you've had between the two right now. Obviously, you see a big decrease around KD damage. The only thing you see is better is honestly the opening duel wins. But yeah, that's pretty much it on that side. And then you see from going from Dav Patty to Mike, you see a big upgrade. You see better stats. You don't see a big uptick in damage, but what you see is a decrease in deaths, which makes his KD higher. So he's putting down just as much damage as Dave Fatty was, but he's not dying as much. So he's staying alive. He's being important. And most important, actually, he is 5-0 in opening duels. He's been doing terrific. He's been doing very, very good. In that, he's been a leader. He's had a bunch of clutches. I think he's up to 4 now during the stage. He's doing just a terrific job of this team. And that's why I was kind of excited to see him in this opportunity. Yeah, he's actually leading the league right now with 3 clutches in the stage so far. So he's done a tremendous job with this team. But as you can see, you improve in one sector, you kind of decrease in the other, and that's what's tough with this Florida team is I feel like Skies and Awakening have done just as well. They've done well. Skies has kind of had some rough areas, but like Mike has been killing it. Awakening has been killing it, and like I want to give 2Real just the benefit of the doubt for now. Like a rough week. We've seen most of the rookies actually come in and not do well in respawns. They do almost all the rookies do really, really well in S&D. That's just it's where the game's slower. You can take your time. It's you're less likely to make mistakes. But when the game starts moving like rapidly and you kind of get in the mix, it's easier to just tumble and have a rough one. So I want to see if he can get some more reps in and kind of adapt to the pro level games. If he can do that, then I think this team can still finish 3-2, 2-3, and then make a run at the major. But they're just going to need that improvement there to get better. That's where I see it.
Yeah, the question I wanted to raise was, looking at the standings right now, LAG are on 125 and they look pretty abysmal. Like, I'd be surprised if they make it. We also would be very surprised if New York make it, which kind of leaves either one of Minnesota or Florida making it and one of them not making it. Because I think that probably Breach and Thieves should be okay with a couple more wins. It's not guaranteed, but the way I'm looking at it right now in terms of possibilities is that one of Rocket or Mutineers probably won't make champs. It could be both, but I want to say one or the other. Now, kind of looking at their schedule, both of them play Paris, actually, which is kind of interesting, over the next 2 weeks or so. So they don't get it's we'll see if it's actually a free victory because I know Donny Tent wants to get some blood, but still, Paris should be an easier series. Florida's run goes London, Paris, and then LA Thieves, whereas Minnesota's run goes London, Paris, and Seattle. So actually not that dissimilar. So I'm just excited to see the battle between those two really as who can make it, because I honestly think I'm marginally more confident in Florida right now to make it over Rocker. Like, they won the series 3-0 and Rocker just, I don't know. I thought in the off season they were making bad decisions keeping this team. I know that obviously it made sense to do it, but it's just the team it's just so boring. I don't know if you agree. But yeah, I don't know. Who do you think is going to qualify out of these two? Because I think one of them won't, but that's just me, maybe.
I think I'm gonna say Rocket. I think Rocket will. I think they're the better team overall. I'm not sold on Turu. I know it's easy to say now that we've watched them play twice, but I never thought that he was CD already. And I think Florida just ran out of options. They couldn't get Neptune, they couldn't get a Seam, they couldn't get Weichel, or Vikul, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Vikul. Yeah.
And who was the other one? There's someone else they tried to.
I think that was it. I mean, I think you mentioned Neptune, Asim, Vikul.
And Hughes, they kind of didn't.
Oh, true. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, I think they kind of just ran out of options. Like, there's not too many subs out there and challenges aside from the ones they already tried. Like, there's no one really else out there that's an incredible, game-changing sub like the people we picked up in the past. So I'm not sold on Florida Mutineers, I'll be honest with you. I also see a world where Boston Breach don't make it. I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion, but I'm not sold on them either.
I agree.
I think Thieves make it definitely, and Rockers going to be my other team that make it if Subliners don't pull something out of there. Where.
Yeah, I'm really supporting the New York run, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
LA Thieves also play Paris, just on that note. So
yeah, I personally think the top 7 are pretty much locked in now. I don't see obviously the top 3 teams: Atlanta, Texas, Seattle. They're locked. I think London, Toronto are in really good form. I would be absolutely shocked.
They for
I
sure
think 160.
All those 5 make it, I think.
Yeah, I think 160 will be the safe cutoff, like the qualifying number. Boston, I think, literally just have to win one more game. If they win one more game, they're a lock. Thieves, I have way more faith than any of the bottom 9 teams to really do well. That sounds weird, even we usually beat up on them, but like they do. I do think they do the right things on the map. That's why I have more faith in them to be consistent. I really think only the final spot, the 8th spot, is open. So it's really between LAG, Minnesota, Florida, and New York. And out of those teams, I'm not confident in any of them.
Yeah, neither.
I think LAG is abysmal. I think Minnesota is just inconsistent, and like they sometimes look phenomenal. They sometimes look like a top 4 team, and then they go and then they like fumble it. And I think it has. I don't know. It's very weird with their system. It's just like they're not very consistent at times.
Mediocre team, man. That's what I said last week.
Yeah, you saw that last stage. What did they go 5-0, and then they kind of didn't do good at the major, and now I don't know. It's kind of weird with them. Florida, I do like some of their pieces. Like I like some of their pieces on the roster, but I just don't know if it's going to click in time. In New York, I just think they're too far in a hole. So like I am so conflicted. If I had to pick a team, I guess I would do Minnesota because I still think
it makes it spicy though. Like there's 4 teams that can make it. It's going to come down to like. The tournament.
100%.
The major's going to be insane, honestly. The losers bracket matches, you're going to have like Minnesota versus New York, and if New York win, they can still make it. If Minnesota lose, they're out. Like, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah, that's why I like the Elimination Fridays, because it's just elimination matches. Usually, like some of the hype around it is like who's going out first, right? But now it's like who's going to survive.
Really big deal. Yeah,
it's a complete flip. So I'm actually really excited. It's going to be tough though, because even if you I don't know. Even if it sounds bad, I don't want to say it like this, but even if you do come in 8th, you're going to be facing the top seed. So it's going to be tough. They're going to want to climb a little bit higher than that. They should be aiming for like 7 and 6.
Yeah, that's a good point. You don't want to be 8th, actually. That's a good point.
It's going to be tough. I do hope it literally comes down to like Saturday, Sunday night, like for the points, like who's going to make it. That would be so cool.
It definitely will, I think. So the team you mentioned, Crone, was Boston, because I definitely think they're still vulnerable, because I can honestly see them just going, like, losing every series for the rest of the season. Like, I don't think it's going to happen necessarily, but there's a world in which it happens, because they play Seattle and Toronto. Also this week they do play LAG. Right after FaZe play LAG, and LAG are abysmal. I think I agree with Austin on that one. But I mean, yeah, they went 1-1 this week. They got a victory against OpTic because somehow they just reverse swept him. Big points in that series. We'll talk about OpTic, of course, in a second. I think 2 more series wins, they should be safe. As I said, the 160 should be a safety number. So pretty much any 2 series wins between now and including the major should get them in a decent point. I don't know what Boston were playing in this Thieves series, to be honest, because yes, the whole internet discussion was a big one again, which I must say is rather interesting now that they've played Los Angeles Thieves twice and got bodied both times on what they say is a unfavorable server between the 2 locations. Now, the first time I was a bit skeptical, and this time I'm actually kind of still skeptical because I'm wondering whether they probably got in their own heads before the match even began. Like, I'd imagine because they know they're playing on that server, like, they lose the first gunfight of the map, and they're like, I'm 70
That's
ping,
cool.
it's chalked.
I'm out.
Yeah, and mentally check out. Like, I probably think that might have been part of it. But also the decisions to play Gavutu in that series was, I thought, pretty faded. I don't understand what they were thinking there, because you're just going to get your that's the advantage that team has over Thieves, is that their SMG duo is, I think, more potent on SMG maps. But instead they thought, no, let's just play them on Gavutu and get fried with Kenny with an AR, which is just, they're walking into it. So thought that was probably poor decisions on the vetoes, for my opinion. But still, I think they'll take a 1-in-1 week, given who they played at the end of the day. So yeah, what do you think about this team? I just think they're going to get champs. They're going to go to champs. They're going to come top 8. So
I don't think that's. I don't think that's a bad like coming in 8th for them, considering like the circumstances that they've had this year. I do kind of see it the same way. They could just be like a little bit of a dark horse depending on like the maps that they get in series, but I don't know. Like, I favor them over LAG. And then I obviously have Seattle, but like Toronto could be like an upset one. If they do that, then they start in winners bracket. So like that's gonna be tough, but they have to beat LAG, which I think they play them this next Sunday at 3:00. So that's gonna be a key one. On the server side, like obviously they play like 30 minutes away from me. I don't know what their connection is. I know I ping about 35-40 to Texas, and I do about 45-50 to Denver. I don't know which servers they use. I'm assuming it's Texas, which is probably the fairest one they have between them. I just hate the connection like complaints out of like any team, because I just feel like the next time you play that, it's always going to be in the back of your head, and it's just like an excuse or like something you're complaining about before you even play. And you're losing like the mental side of the like. Call of Duty is a lot. It's a lot mentally. There's a mental battle going on constantly. And you're already losing the battle if you are blaming internet connection and everything else for it. I personally don't think like 5, 10, 15 ping difference is that big of a deal. And I am one of the firm believers that the ping equalizer that they use works. Just after seeing like some of the like hearing how it works and like how it worked in Owl, like they literally had teams playing from NA to Asia and pinging to Honolulu servers. Like they were making that work. You tell me you can't make from Boston to LA work, or Boston to LA to Denver or to Texas work. That's just my thing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it doesn't work, and maybe there's been like this whole like cloud over it. But like, I just think like this Boston team, I don't know if they match up very well against LA Thieves. I think that's maybe the big issue. Is the maps they both like favor LA Thieves. Like Boston likes Gavutu, that's why they keep playing it, and they probably went with a comfort pick over the logical pick, like stats wise. So they probably went with the comfort pick for themselves instead of vetoing the other team's strengths, which is like it's kind of like veto philosophy of how you want to go about that. I personally agree with you. I would have liked to see a bow cage in there or a Tuscan, like maps where they can just kind of play more free. Because again, I think LA Thieves does a lot of right things in the map. I think like fundamentally they do correct stuff. It's just sometimes their firepower lets them down. And so like I think when you go onto a map like Gavutu, which Gavutu is the most Call of Duty map we have this season, like old school Call of Duty, as in like it's very rotational heavy, it's very hold heavy. It reminds me a lot of like Raid, where any hill could be a money hill if you lock it down. Like the biggest money hill in the game is P1 on the second and third rotation. It's so easy to lock down. You can lock down P3, you can lock down P2, you can lock down P4, you can even lock down P4 from the front and spawn trap them in the back. So like that map is very technical. It reminds me of Moscow. It reminds me of Raid. It reminds me of all those rotation maps. That's not a map you want to like square up on against like OpTic or Thieves. Like those are teams that like to play the fundamental old school type of Call of Duty. So I didn't really love that, but like I'm not in their camp. They feel comfortable with it. That's just what they went with. So like I can't argue with that. But for the rest of the stage, I still think they're in a good spot at 140. I think they weren't lucky, but I think they're probably thankful that they had a very good stage 1 and stage 2 where they got 120 points. Because if they didn't have that, they would be they would be in a very difficult spot right now.
The same for Ravens too. They had a really good stage 1.
So I honestly think as long as they beat LAG, they'll be in the championship, because not every team. I don't think New York will leapfrog them at 150. I just don't see New York getting 60 plus points in this. And I believe Boston would have the tiebreaker anyways in that instance. So I don't believe Thieves or New York would need 65 plus points. So I just don't see them getting leapfrogged by them. And I don't see, LAG. I don't see Minnesota, Florida, getting up to 150, 160, unless they make a deep run at the major. But even then, I don't know. It would be tough. So I think Boston just needs 1 or 2 more wins, whether that's at the major or against LAG is their best opportunity. So, and especially because that would put them above another competitor below them. So
that'd be big if they'd be LAG.
Yeah, that's definitely big.
Let's do OpTic, because I was looking at the standings right then, the standings within this stage. And OpTic are joint bottom, baby. Los Angeles Guerrillas, OpTic Texas, 0-2, 3-6 map count. Congratulations. Even Paris aren't down there yet because they only lost 1 series last week. I'm not going to lie, I was going to go pretty hard on OpTic, I think, in this. But I might reserve it a little bit just because it does seem like ILLEY is coming back now. He was scrimming with them yesterday again, and I imagine today as well, and going forwards, like Rambo's come out and said, and Shotzzy said that he's back and he was feeling okay, and they played the full 2 sets of scrims, and maybe it's true that the cortisone shot that he had, and the doctors say that it should be okay with a little bit more time, and now the pain and the range of motion issues have gone away. I think Rambo said he's having to hold his controller slightly differently now because the way he was holding it before, they reckon, contributed to the issue that he had, which is promising to say that it should probably stay away and not recur in the future. Maybe he needs to have something done after the season. Who knows? But as it stands right now, he should be back in the team, and hopefully the team can get to full force again, because as far as I'm concerned, this is the last and final call for this team to actually have a successful season, because it's been an absolute nightmare for them. I must say that the way they've managed it I'm sure they'll look back and say, we could have managed this situation better. The amount of flip-flopping and yo-yoing they've done with ILLEY in, ILLEY's out, Prolute's back, he's flying back in. It's been an absolute disaster for them. It's completely screwed up their practice. Like, it hasn't helped that maybe Scump or Dashy or Shotzzy or whoever has been unwell after the OpTic party that happened. But I do think that they could have managed this better on a few different angles. I also think that the idea of them sticking with Prolute is an interesting one. I think it's a good idea in a way, but with Prolute, they clearly don't have what it takes to win an event. They lack the leadership. They lack the ability in the clutch moments that they have with ILLEY. And on that basis, the concern is that if ILLEY, let's say he comes back in and he's all good for like 2 weeks, and then all of a sudden the cortisone shot wears off or whatever, and then the major or champs, and it's not so good again, right? And at that point, it's just chalk to OpTic, right? They'll know it's chalk because I don't think they believe they can win with Prolute personally. They believe they can with ILLEY. So what I was wondering is, I think that a different organization might have said that, okay, if Prolute can't come back, have a serious conversation with the team and be like, well, look, hey, what do we think about this substitute? Is Prolute the best guy? Could we get someone else? Could we target a Scrappy or someone, and like even have an option there, right? Because of course they want ILLEY to be there, but in a world in which ILLEY has to step out again, their season's, I think, done and dusted, at least mentally. Whereas if you did have another option sitting there on the bench, which you could have had if you went out and made a move, a Temp, a Scrappy, or whoever, then they would at least have another backup option, which I think other organizations that might have been, I don't know what exactly want to say, more committed to winning, but I think other organizations would have more seriously considered something like that. Whereas OpTic have kind of just like hoped it'll work out for the best. So I think there's some maybe criticism deserved with the management of the situation, but I do understand that it's ILLEY who kind of makes the call at the end of the day to be like, look, Rambo and the team don't know how good his thumb is. ILLEY knows how good the thumb is. So he has to be the one that calls the shots, and the team can't really say yes or no too much. But I do feel like some of the instances where he's returned a bit too soon have only hurt him and the team. And they certainly did this week, because they came into this week rusty as hell, barely any practice with Prolute, looked terrible. Probably the two sloppiest series I've seen them play all season long. Especially the Boston series was so embarrassing, the way they just went. They lost the control, got smoked on the control, and then went down 100-5 in the Bacage Hub. And I was like, this is such classic OpTic that they've just fallen apart mentally. And of course they lose the game 5. It's so predictable. So yeah, frustrating to watch an OpTic like this, because you just know what's going to happen before it happens. But yeah, that's my little rant on the OpTic situation. I hope they can get back to form though, because I mean, it's more fun to watch when OpTic are good, and I hope that the pressure's going to be on ILLEY, is the fact of the matter really here. So I've ranted for quite some time. Austin, what do you think?
Yeah, I just, the only thing I'm scared of is that his long-term health. I just don't want anything to do with like his long-term health getting like dinged because he's coming back too early. Regarding like holding the controller differently, is that not what we heard, that he tried to do it with the Pro-Am and he couldn't do it? Like the pain still returned.
I think that was the thing, yeah.
So like, I'm a little bit worried about that. Obviously, this sounds weird coming from me, but obviously I want OpTic at full strength. I would rather them be, 100% healthy right now. I want ILLEY to be like good. I never want to see anyone's career get dinged because of an injury. That is horrible. It sucks. That's the only thing I'm worried about. If he does come back, I'm actually excited to see how he comes back after not being in practice and like doing a lot, like playing. He's obviously been watching and doing all that, but not playing in practice for a couple of months. I want to see how that affects him and how fast he can get up to speed, because we pretty much only have 5 weeks left until the championship, until the season is done. So
that's crazy, man.
And people forget we really don't have too much practice, because when we have matches on the weekends like this, you only practice pretty much Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And no, you take off most teams take off Monday, so you do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then sometimes you play Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But because there's so many teams playing, you don't really practice. You're warming up other teams. You're not practicing as much. So we pretty much have, like, obviously yesterday, today, tomorrow. You have the next 3 after that, and then you have travel for New York and stuff. So you're not really practicing during that. And then you come back and you pretty much have 10 days, not even, probably like 8-9 days, where you're actually practicing for the championship. So we have maybe, you're looking, 12-15 days of practice left. And you got to like, obviously some of that's, you're going to try to like, reduce the stress on his hand to make sure he's not overdoing it. So who knows how much practice they're going to be able to get from now to the end of the season. That would be my only worry. And then his long-term health, obviously. But like, those are my only 2 worries. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. On the substitute part of it, the reason why I don't think, first off, I think they're confident in Prolute. I feel like they think like Prolute is a ILLEY type player that fits in. I think coming into this stage, they thought they were gonna have ILLEY back. Like, if I remember, they already announced like he was coming back and stuff. Like, there was talks of it. I'm pretty sure they were banking on him coming back this stage. And then when he couldn't, it was already too late. Because I'm 99% sure the trade deadline was before it started.
Yeah. They might not have been able to do anything.
So I don't think they were able to do anything. And at this point, the only other person you can sub in is probably General, because he's the only one on their sub bench. Which goes back to, I just remember I was saying a couple podcasts ago, like, even if you think you have a doubt about a player, sign him as a substitute, so then you can have him on your bench. So if you have any doubts at all during the stage 4 or major, right? And if you're a team that's going to champs, you can switch, you can play around with that. So that was my thing. I definitely think there's not a player that I would plug into this roster, because it's really weird. You need a flex player who's an IGL, who's not afraid to tell Dashy, Scump, and Shotzzy, like, yell at them, regain, like get them going. You know what I mean? Like you have to be vocal. And there's not many. I really don't. There's no other player. I don't think there's any available players right now. I think there's none. I would not. There's none. So it'd be really tough because like I saw some names get thrown out there like Clay, but first off, Clay has a buyout from New York. You would have to do that. And two, Clay's a main AR. I don't think that would work at all with Dashy. Like you had to think about
Clay and Dashy in general. Like
yeah. So I just don't think there was any clear upgrade you could have had.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
it's perfect in that team right now. I don't think there's anyone out there. You can
like
go get more
Scrappy,
slam pad, but you don't need that. You don't need
Scrappy, but you would have to buy him out, and I don't think he's a IGL like leader. He's gonna be vocal, but there's a difference between being vocal and being a leader. So like it's just a tough
spot.
There's
a few times in the listening during the games, and you could hear Prolo like, "Yo, everyone chill, like calm down, slow down." I don't think there's many other people out there that are gonna do what Prolo does for them.
It's just unfortunate.
Probably as close as you can get to ILLEY.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate. His like individual form has like when he first came in, like he was playing really, really well. He even played pretty well during stage 3 and at the major, but it's like slowly gone back down. And like I don't think that's on him actually, like because like
I think the other two players like Shotzzy and yeah, exactly.
Like your stars, like when you aren't doing well, you can't just look at the worst performing player because he shouldn't be giving a 1.2. He should be giving like a 0.9, 0.95. He's not performing as bad. You need your star players to be star players to help him take the pressure off him. I just don't think the team's been working well. Whether that's due to lack of practice, due to stuff they can't control, sickness, injury. It's just tough to see that because I've seen more and more of it on social media, on Reddit, that like pro loot is one of the issues. Like they need ILLEY back, but like I also think like some players on the team they need to step up and be leaders or show that star power. And I don't know. Obviously, I'm not in that team, so they might have done it. They might not have. You can't really tell, but like it just does suck that they started kind of rough this stage, and like people are kind of coming at ProLoot, which I don't think. And everyone should be kind of like grateful he came in and did such a good job for them so far up until this point.
Yeah, I'm interested to see their match against Paris because I know there's a lot of hype behind Paris' scrims at the moment. But it'll be interesting if OpTic don't win that, what Twitter's going to look like.
Oh,
it's always fun after an OpTic loss.
I mean, like, because they might play him on Bacage. I think that's a very reasonable possibility in the hardpoints. And that's a map where Paris really like. They decided to play Seattle on it, which is questionable because Seattle are the best team in the game on that map. But OpTic like playing that map as well. So I can actually see a really intense map 1 Bacage versus OpTic versus Paris. If they lose it, what happens to the mental? And that is the question. Go on, Chrome, before I go on to the next part.
I think even methods of someone was saying that Paris is like legit really good on scrims, and then they said Seattle's just better. That's why Seattle smoked Paris. But I can't wait to see Paris like really properly play because I think they'll be good. I'm a big fan of Johnny.
Yeah, come on, the boys. So this is something that you kind of touched on a bit, Austin, and I did want to mention it because there's a question right now: why are Scump and Shotzzy not performing as they were at the start of the year? Is it because ILLEY got the best out of them and ProLoot kind of just the way the team chemistry works doesn't work quite so well? But I think the Scump question is an interesting one because yes, he's kind of the SMG player on the team. He's never really been like the leadership type figure on the squad, right? And he's never really been in a position to do that. But it's got to be said, and we've got to roast OpTic a bit for this, because they're the only team in the game that consistently loses these clutch situations. ILLEY seems to have been the only piece that they've put into that squad over the last, 3 years probably, that can actually make this team clutch up. At the start of the season, stage 1, stage 2, they'd win their round 11s, they'd go up 5-3 and close out the game, they'd win the close hardpoints, they'd win the close controls. Nowadays, what do you see from OpTic? Go round 5 in control, lose. Go 5-3 up. I don't know what their percentage win rate is from a 5-3 up in search and destroy situation, but it's got to be the worst in the league. And that's not just this year. That's last year. That's the year before last year. I swear, it's unbelievable how often the mental just disappears. It's Benjay Nassim said it very well on the flank last year when he said they're kind of a plan A team. If things went wrong, they would just completely collapse. And so, okay, ILLEY seemed to somehow solve that issue on the team, whatever it was, when they don't have him. again, this issue returns, which is why I'm saying, look, I'm not necessarily saying it's the player's fault or whatever, but clearly they need to recognize they have an issue with this situation. They can't afford to go game 5, round 11 and choke it away by making some stupid plays. They've done it plenty of times this season and the previous seasons as well. We know that teams like Toronto have looked into, I'm sure that they've looked into the sports science. I'm sure that they've talked to Bants about, okay, these breathing exercises. How can you snap your head back into the game? How do you regain from a situation? Like, there's a lot of literature on this stuff, and there's a lot of people who know an awful lot about this stuff. And I just don't think that OpTic are taking that part of their game seriously enough, because I think that other teams would look at a situation where you go up 4-1 in a search and destroy, up 1-0 against Thieves, someone falls off the map, you lose the map and the series, and say, this has got to stop. We've got to find a way to prevent these kind of mental collapses happening again. And it happens to OpTic more frequently than anyone. So that's a bit of a rant. And maybe that is okay with ILLEY back, and I think maybe he is the factor in helping that team get that in the right state. But when he's not there, it's very clearly an issue, and other teams have taken steps to deal with this, and I think that OpTic should start to consider doing the same. So that's my kind of secondary point on the OpTic side. I don't know if you think I've got any idea what I'm talking about, Austin, or what do you reckon?
I mean, it's really tough to tell, like, from the outside. Obviously, I think the lack of like steady practice hurts teams so much because you just fall behind. There's so many like micro metas that like develop like week by week, like things that you see other teams doing that works. And if you aren't practicing as much and you don't see those little adjustments that teams are making that are working that you could steal and put into your game, like just this weekend, I'm not gonna say what, but I saw a couple things. You know, you take those things, you try to make your team's game plan better, and then next, you know, like you keep elevating, you keep progressing on certain maps. That doesn't happen. You can't do that rapidly or like really fastly. You can't make that up like in big quantities. And that's something I think they've been affected by that. I think they've been affected just by having, you know, an in and out roster. Like 1 week you have ILLEY, 1 week you don't. You're changing perspectives. I think they're definitely lacking leadership. Maybe not. It's hard to say definitely, but I think ILLEY's leadership was very valuable to them in like setting up like teammates. Like one thing I noticed is like Pred's interview. He's talking about he's not even thinking. He just knows what he has to do already. Everyone on the team knows what they have to do. They're not thinking, and when that happens, the communication, you're not talking what you're doing, right? You're talking where the other team's spawning, what they're doing. You're all just reacting because you've done it 1,000 times. You know where you're reacting. You don't have to communicate where you're going or how you're doing it because the team already knows what the game plan is. You're able to call out the other team, which makes your communication more effective, more efficient, and you're steps ahead. You're not even like doubting yourself, because if you doubt yourself in your game, you're dead. You can't do that. You have to be on the ball and just going and know where to go. And like part of that is like you can't just have pace. Like a lot of people tip like engagements, having a lot of engagements, having a lot of like, you know, deaths, just kills, deaths, whatever, combined, whatever. But like you have to be doing the right things on the map too. You can't just be setting pace records and not having any direction as a unit, because that you're not being efficient with those engagements. You're not getting anything out of it. So that's just something where that's not like an OpTic issue. That's like teams around the league, but like OpTic is getting affected, I think, by this lack of set leadership within the communication. You know, lack of practice a little bit. I just think they just need to get just buckled. If ILLEY's truly back, and like he's back right now, I think they just have to really block out all the noise and just fucking buckle down for the next 3 weeks and just make sure. Like what I keep telling my team is like make sure in at the end of August you don't look back and just be like, I could have tried harder at this time, right? There's 4 or 5 weeks left. It's the time for like no bullshit. Like you're just grinding, and that's something where I think they'll do. They have Ray as a coach. They have Troy as a coach. They're going to be like hella buckling down right now. So I want to see how they look at the major. I think that will be a good indication of where they are, and then that, like, you know, week and a half of practice going into champs will be pretty vital for them.
Thoughts, Crane? Did I go too hard?
I mean, everything's pretty much been said. I think Shotzzy and Scump are just in a slump at the moment. I don't think it's Prolude's fault. Already said that. Shotzzy will obviously come out of it easily. Like, I think he'll be fine. I don't think it's Prolude's fault at all. Like I already said. I don't know. I'm interested to see how they look. And I'm kind of confused because I don't know how they're going to go into Major 4. They're going to go in thinking they're winning, or they're going to go in thinking, okay, as long as we get like top 6, we're fine. So I don't know. We'll wait and see what happens. I don't really have much to say that hasn't already been said by you two. You know, you guys have been pretty hard.
That's another thing too. Is like you need that delusional confidence. Like as I said before, like Call of Duty is a very big mental game too. There's a lot of like confidence, a lot of just like momentum that you can build yourself. Like you have to go in thinking, I don't give a fuck if we have a substitute. We're gonna fucking smoke these guys. Which I don't even think that's a fair argument anymore. I think Prolode's been playing for like 2.5 months now, right? He's been playing for a while. Like these guys just need to build up their confidence, and they need to rely on the system that they've had this year. Like Pred is so good, literally because he just said he's not even thinking. He knows already what he's supposed to be doing. He's able to just react correctly the way the team wants to get that way. I think if Shotzzy finds himself in a comfortable situation where he's just like that, this team will get scary really quick again. It's just about getting into that situation. I think like right now they're all trying to do too much individually, and they're not relying on their system. They might not be completely confident, and you know maybe some of like doubt is there, but I don't think there's any need for that. I think they'll be fine. They're one of the most talented teams in the game. I honestly think like us, them, and Seattle are the top 3 by far. So like I just think they just have to get back to it, buckle down. You know, I think this last week had a lot to do with just lack of practice, lack of cohesion as a unit, more individualistic. They're playing to like individuals instead of as a team. So that's just where I think they'll have to improve going into next week.
Funny the way you said that, like yourself, Seattle, OpTic, top 3. I mean, it's if Scump gets another top 3 at champs, man, he's gonna be fuming. Let's take the heat off OpTic a little bit and talk about LAG because you know they definitely also deserve their fair share of criticism because they made their call. It seems to me that this roster change achieved absolutely nothing. They played 2 decent teams, Toronto and New York. They got reverse swept by Toronto. That'd have been a big 10 points for LAG. They don't get them. And then they get bodied by New York in honestly a pretty embarrassing way, I thought, because yes, they won that control, even though they don't win control. So I don't expect them to do that again for a while. But the way they lost both hard points, like they practically got 100-point club to both hard points. And the game 1, they outslayed, or they got outslayed by like 6 kills and lost by 150. Which is like, partly that's New York just being efficient, but partly that's LAG doing nothing. Hook had like 0 hill time. I think literally 0 hill time. And yeah, it was kind of an interesting one because obviously Neptune comes into that series against New York and everyone was kind of thinking, oh, well, is Neptune going to do a Major Maniac and drop a 1.4 and fry him? This whole Neptune's concept of he knows how to play hardpoint better than Crim or whatever didn't really seem to backfire on him a little bit. And yeah, Slasher wasn't a happy man either. So what to do, right? Because you've now got Neptune and Hook as your SMG duo. You're not, I mean, Spark looked alright, and Slasher was, I guess, doing his thing, but it's just the SMG duo, man. Like we said, this SMG duo doesn't really match up against when you've got a Cleanix and a Bance, or you've got a Hydra and a Kismet right now. Like they're just so much more effective. And Hook and Neptune just aren't effective based on the 2 performances we saw. So it's like, do you bring a Seam back? If you do you bring him in place of Hook? And if you don't do that, you're not making champs. I mean, someone said in the chat earlier, how many series do they have to win? I mean, if they win 3 series, they get to 155, which might be enough, might not be. But like 2 series wins probably isn't going to be enough. Like they need 3 series wins. And I don't know where they're going to find these 3 series wins from, Austin.
Yeah, I didn't agree with the roster changes that they made going into this stage. I think this is one of those teams where you just have a lot of pace and like not really much direction, and that's something where again, like I don't think people should be trying to set pace records for the sole objective of just being fast and having a lot of engagements. You still have to do the right things around the map, right? There still has to be someone that does the dirty work, that takes the long route, that watches a pinch, slows down, stops for a second, waits for his team. Like you can't just be constantly running. Like that's why sometimes I don't like that everyone gasses the high engagements, because if somebody has a lot of engagements and is doing a lot of the right things around the map, and they just have a lot of engagements because they're constantly getting either a lot of kills or like they're making a lot of like routes, like baiting in for people, that's different. But like just running, not being around the hill, like I don't think any like I don't know. I've seen a lot of SMGs lately with just 0 hill time or like very little hill time, and I don't think that's correct. I think you're either just playing for kills and just leaving your team out to dry, or you're just not taking the correct routes, or you're just trying to put pressure outside of the hill constantly, like nonstop. And I don't know if that's the best way to do it. So that's just my thing. Personally, I think Asem should never have been off this roster. What he does, like, we do have another one of the graphics, Omar, if you want to bring it up. It's Asem stage 3 versus Neptune stage 4. Personally, I think Neptune has done a good job this stage at points. I feel like he's had some bright spots, but some still like, or it's just setting pace just to set pace. As you can see right here, their damage is actually pretty similar. It's just the KDs. And one of the big things is Asem was much better in the opening duels. It does say 0%. It's not just one opening duel loss. It's a couple. It's a handful. So it's not like it's just one death there. I definitely thought that Asem was better in hardpoint in S&D. I know his hardpoint KD is nothing flashy, but I definitely agree with that. I think if anything, maybe Asem and Neptune should have been the SMG duo going into the stage. I wasn't sold on the Slasher and Spart when they both have automatons. I just don't think that playstyle fit Spart. He had a really, really rough stage 3, and that's what they brought back in Pierce when he was running the automaton with Slasher. And I just didn't see how the AR duo and the SMG duo, just different philosophies, different all over. Like, it just didn't really make sense to me when they did it. And of course, I'm not in the comms, I'm not in the game. There might have been other factors going into it, and that's what makes talking about it hard. But I just didn't agree with it. And now they're in a hole where now they're 0-2 this stage. You had a winnable game. You had a very winnable game versus New York, and you had a winnable game against Toronto. Yeah, and you needed both of them, right?
They looked good
against games as well.
And they lost.
Now you have Atlanta, and now Omar, you can actually bring up they play Boston. You can actually bring up the Capsule versus Vivid that we had here too. Shout out Roosevelt for making
right now.
Yeah, Roosevelt made these terrific graphics. I love it. You're looking at a Boston that's in much better form. You can see here with Vivid coming in for Capsule, he's bringing a lot more damage. There's substance there. They got similar KDs, but he's much more active on the map, and he's contributing a lot on the damage side. So, yeah, I think this is going to be a really tough stage for LAG. I don't see them beating Boston. Obviously they play us. It can go either way. I'll put it that way. So no bad juju. And then they play London. I think London is a team that's on the up, and this team's on the down. And I see maybe at the best 1-4, at the worst 0-5. And like, you needed points. You needed to win versus New York. You needed to win versus Toronto. You needed to look better. So when you play Boston, that's a game you can win. Now, it's just tough. I don't think you're gonna. I don't think you're gonna be bringing in Asem and just completely changing the roster. I don't think the AR duo works off of each other great, and I don't think the SMG duo currently is working out great. I just think there's polling philosophies on different for different players on how they want to run stuff, and so they're just in a tough spot. They're in a really tough spot. They pretty much have to now, because I don't think they're going to do it in the group stage. They're going to have to replicate their stage 2, where they had a really big.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to need at least like 3 or 4 wins in the lower bracket and to make a run there, which is just going to be really tough, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think they were stuck in a rock and a hard place, right? Like, do they keep their same roster, which is below mid, or do they make a roster change and hope for something incredible to happen, like when they put Spartan? And I don't think that's happening. And I saw that after they finished their Toronto match, they lost their game 5, which sucks. But I looked at it and I was like, hey, I mean, they didn't play bad. Like, all of them had good stats, which a lot of times doesn't matter against Ultra because 3 of them were negative. But I still think they probably came out of there like, hey, we look decent, like we looked alright, like it's fine. And then they play subliners and just get absolutely smoked. Was it 3-1 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, they won the control, but it wasn't pretty.
And you think, like, you said, like, Toronto and New York's SMG duos. Well, like, you have Bance and you have Kismet, who are the biggest dirty workers in the league who get like probably underappreciated. But I feel like nowadays, like actually people kind of appreciate the dirty workers on each team. Like Kismet is never going to put up like flashy numbers, but he's doing a ton of dirty work so the slayers in that team can slay and not have to worry about that. Vance does a terrific job. He literally says in S&D, you guys just go kill. I will literally I'll be the bomb bitch and I will do everything I can to make it so you guys just have to go kill. Who is that on this team? I don't know. I honestly don't know because you have one SMG player that's getting minimal hardpoint time, which again might just be a philosophy on how they want to play it. Like I don't know. Like, do you want to go down the Florida route, or does one of your ARs just have to do all the dirty work? Is that what Austin's going to do? Like, I just don't see how that works on the team, and they're going to have to heavily rely on S&D going into the next couple of matches. I think they're in a tough spot. I understand they had to make a change. They definitely probably had to make a change. I love Pierce and ASM. Obviously, it's a tough spot with that org and what they did for moves. So it's like, I don't know. You kind of maybe had to try something to change it up because clearly it wasn't working. But I don't think this was the answer. I thought that it literally when I heard it, I was like, I don't think this is the answer. This is not. This is just making a move just to make a move, and I don't know. There was a bunch.
Good. Like how long do they wait until maybe they bring in Asim back? Because champs, you don't have that much time.
It will eat as Asim even come in. You just literally benched him after.
I think he's back in Canada too.
Literally,
really?
I think
it's choked.
He was their best player for 2 stages. He was their best player in stage 1, hands down, not even close. Don't even have to think about it. In stage 2, you can argue Slasher, you can argue Spart. I still think before Spart came in, I think Spart did good, but he was a little bit more hyped up just because he was a substitute coming in. I still think Slasher and Asim were terrific on that team at the time at the major. Obviously stage 3 was rough for everybody involved. That's just unspeakable. Pretty much just happened. But like, I don't know. I think you benched him. Does he even want to come back? I mean, even if he does come back, you still need to win probably 3 series at the major. You need to be top 6, top 4, which could be too tall of a task, given it. So, yeah.
Agreed. Let's go to the other side of LA and talk about Thieves, because we already kind of talked about the theories they destroyed Boston in again. And I don't know, this is just so tragic the way they lost to FaZe, because they look good. And I was thinking, damn, they'll actually do this. Like, game 1 was impressive on Gavutu. I mean, they kind of rolled back the years there, but as soon as they did the "Don't challenge us on Gavutu" tweet, I thought, here we go. It's chalked, because then they get bodied in the search. I mean, the Berlin was funny because against Boston twice now, they've just rolled through Boston on Berlin search and destroy, just steamrolled them, and then I guess they tried the same thing as against you guys, and you probably just anti-stratted them very nicely, and just got completely shut down. They won the control. I mean, it was an incredible control, I gotta say. But even then, I probably thought you guys were the better team there, to be honest. You should have won one of those final 2 rounds. I think there were some fortunate circumstances that prevented that being the case. And look, Kenny again drops a 1.3 against the green colour teams, and then drops a 0.7 against the red colour teams. So he's done it again. People were saying he's the problem, too inconsistent, not a superstar player. And honestly, on the SMG maps, I'm inclined to agree. Put him on Gavutu, he's going to fry you. That's how it is. He likes an AR. But when he's forced to run an SMG on a Tuscan hardpoint, it's not always going to go well. And they don't play Bakash for good reason. So I think map pool is especially important here. But this series wasn't really about the respawns, because I actually looked right at the respawns. It was the search and destroys that were just completely embarrassing. I mean, the Octane double donut, I don't know if we'll ever see that repeated for a long time. I think JP Krez said that it's the first time he's ever even seen a double 6-0 in COD history, let alone an 0-12. So this is a potentially once in a decade performance here, which really does deserve a lot of credit. And it was great content on the day.
I saw it about to happen. I was like preparing tweets, and I was like watching the game, like, oh, he's gonna do it.
I was praying for it to happen.
He's gonna do it.
I was like, I
need
this storyline for the video. So, and it bloody happened. So, unbelievable. I don't know what you guys think about this because it's funny, really, in that this season, in previous years, Octane's respawn has been his kind of like dominant force, and his search and destroy has been pretty, poor relative. This year, it was his search that was great at the start of the season, and his respawn was bad. And now he goes an 0-12 in 2 maps. So, yeah, this was impressive from Thieves to lose in such a manner, but their respawn was pretty good. I just think it's like when you're getting blown out in search that badly, it's like you're not, especially because FaZe are always in the grand finals, and Thieves are now 0-8 against FaZe in CDL history. It's like, how do you expect to win an event if you can't beat FaZe? Because FaZe was in the finals.
You still sub people in mid series. You can, right?
They could bring Pentagram in for search if they wanted.
Even
Yeah.
like pick up a decent.
They could.
decent I mean, we could be overreacting just because we know for.
It is FaZe, but
Whatever reason,
still 12-0 and 18-0 in the last 3 times they played it. That's the craziest thing. You 6-0'd him on Bakaj last time you played him on Bakaj. It's like, what's going on?
I always thought Octane was always not good at S&D. I always thought he was very, very, very good at hardpoint and whatever the third game mode was, whether that was control, uplink, ETF. He was always just an absolute monster, like monster in respawns. But I've never thought he's like very, very, very good in S&D. I mean, that goes back to even the LA Thieves or the 100 Thieves days in Black Ops 4. The Luminosity. I always just thought he was always really, really good in respawns. It doesn't mean he's horrible at S&D. I just didn't think that was his strong suit. In the series, I mean, we just played really, really sloppy Gavutu. I always thought that like us and OpTic were like the top 2 teams in Gavutu. I mean, last 2 times I think we played LA Thieves on Gavutu, we've crushed them. But we played really sloppy. It just wasn't good. It wasn't good Gavutu. I was really, really, really happy with how we played S&D. It was more of just playing together, which is like the common theme of what we've been talking about. Is just do stuff together. Don't do it alone. Make people. I mean, I firmly believe we have 4 of the best players in the world, if not the best. And one-on-ones, sure, other players can beat you, but no one's gonna be able to beat 2-on-1s. You know what I mean? So that's just something we did really, really well. In the boat cage, there was like I was keeping up on it, and I was just like, there was one round, I think it was in a 1v3, and like Alec like dropped down on bomb, whatever bomb site, I think it's B bomb, and like I thought Octane was gonna kill him, and I was like, no, and then Chris like looped back around and got him mid, and that was like the shooting the body round. But after that happened, I just knew it was gonna be 6-0, 6-0, which we've almost actually done before. Last year when we played OpTic, we 6-0, 6-1'd, and that's the closest I think we've been.
Oh,
but,
wow. Was that in the Stage 1 series? Oh, no, it wasn't Stage 1. Was that Stage 1?
I think so. Yeah, I think it was, because it was Miami and I want to say Raid, or not Raid wasn't at the time. It was Miami and something else.
I think it was at Moscow or something.
Yeah.
I don't know though.
Someone sent me a clip a couple of days ago, and it was Tupac on stream, and he said there was a moment where you guys thought about, I don't know if you can comment on this, thought about bringing him in, subbing him into S&D early in the season.
Wow.
I didn't tweet about it, but he said it on stream this week sometime.
I
think that's when he started playing S&D, like because he was playing Warzone for a little bit, I think.
I think he might have been when Simp was sick. I don't know if you guys remember when Simp was literally throwing up like 10 minutes before a match, and we had to bring in Preston. And I think at that point we because you can't just bring in somebody, they have to be signed to a subcontract. I think at that point it was like Hawk come in and play the S&Ds, Preston can play the respawns. That's the only time like Pac's there 20 like every S&D practice we have. He's there. He's helping call. He's helping like explain certain situations. He does a really good job of that, and like develop strategies, develop how we want to approach different bomb sites and stuff like that. So he's been really instrumental to how we do stuff. RJ and Chris contribute a lot too. It's not just like Tupac. We literally have everybody, all hands on deck at all times. We just try to use as much as we can. But yeah, I thought we still played really well. The Tuscan, we started a little bit slow, but after like we broke them on the Church Hill or on the Well Hill, I was just like, yeah, this is over. and then they didn't get a point on the Churchill, and they didn't get a point on P5. I was just like, yeah, that like the second rotation was great. We just have to work on not starting so slow, not giving ourselves a 100-point deficit so early. The control was a little bit sloppy on our defenses. I feel like we gave up a little bit too many ticks, but still played pretty well. And then on the S&Ds or on the attacking rounds, like those are rounds we should never lose. When we're up by that many like lives, we just have to play together, not just say like, oh, we just have to keep going and keep trading out. Like play together. You just need one good push to get on point and win it. I do think we did a good play, and then Kenny got the two piece on the nade. I feel like if that played out the way it was setting up to be, I think that would have been a 1 round. But Tuscan was close. They hit 100 Thieves on that one. They played really good on their defense still, but overall, I thought we played really, really well on 4 out of the 5 maps. I was pretty happy with that series.
Yeah, what do you reckon, Crone? Any final thoughts on this Thieves squad, really? Because I saw a crazy thing, actually. Deserted did their power rankings, and they had FaZe, Seattle, Thieves. And I was like, Thieves can't be the 3rd best team in the game. But then I looked through all the other teams, and I was like, who am I putting above Thieves? I don't know. Like, I want to put Toronto, but I don't think I can justify that. Like, I don't think I could justify OpTic right now. Surely not.
Yeah, they had
and
them
then I'm
like
thinking,
7th or 6th or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking New York, but surely not. So I'm like, are Thieves somehow the 3rd best team? I mean,
It's been like this all year though. Like
I don't get it. Man.
Like 7th team is just like, who knows? It's like whatever.
I know we have our coaches poll coming out tomorrow, and I'll just we have Thieves in 5th. They're
seems better.
Yeah, I won't say the order, but they're in 5th. They're decently behind the 4th place team, and they're right above the 6th place team. But they're in that top 6 range, top 5 range. So I feel like that's a good place for them. I feel like people are overreacting, which they put OpTic in what 6th or 7th. Granted, in their current form, if they weren't going to change rosters, and this is where they were at, you could argue that. But like I still think you have to look. I would not put OpTic that low, which is what they had, and then they had Thieves above Toronto. I don't know if you guys would agree with that. Maybe
I disagree right now, but Toronto. I mean, we can talk about right now. To be honest,
if you had to rank them right now in this current moment, if those two teams played each other, who would you have winning?
I'd still take Toronto. Yeah.
No, that's how I look at power rankings. Like, would you have? Would the team above you beat you? The majority of the times if you played 10 times, So.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it. You can also look at it as like expected event placing, of which Toronto outplaced LAG or LAT last time out.
I don't hate it.
But yeah, the London placement was kind of faded. And we'll talk about that actually now, because Toronto is kind of the final team I wanted to have a little bit of a talk about, because as we said earlier, they should be good for champs. They're on 150, 2 more series wins should be easily enough for them. A bit of an off week for them though. They did the reverse sweep against Gorillas, and I was like, okay, fair play. They started slow, but they turned up. They looked good the last 3 maps. They played good maps than the last 3, and they won what was a pretty impressive reverse sweep at the end of the day. I kind of felt like it was coming. But they looked like a good, solid Toronto team that had a bit of a poor start to the series. The London one was interesting, though, because I know that Zero has always kind of had Bantz's number, which continues here, because Zero just went rogue this series, had a monster one. It does seem it always is interesting when like a player comes back in like Gizmo, doesn't drop crazy numbers, but just seems to be able to enable other players better, as in the team dynamic works way better with Gizmo than it did with Harry, just because of roles and stuff and pacing. So Zero went off and looked again like he did in Stage 1, Stage 2. Arguably single-handedly put him through some of these maps. But the fact that Toronto go 1-1 on the week and lose to London in the manner that they did was a little bit concerning, just because of the fact that they lost both the hard points. And when Toronto were really struggling back in Stage 2, it was because their hard point was terrible. They went on some like crazy losing streak in hard point. They could win the other modes, but their hard point loss streak was just absurd. And all they need to be is like a 55%, 60% hardpoint team. And if their Search and Destroy maintains, they're an easily top 3 team. But if their hardpoint falls off again, then they are once again very vulnerable as they were in stage 2. So I think that's probably the biggest concern to take from this week is that they went pretty sure 1 in 3 in hard points against LAG and London, which is not exactly the most impressive opposition theoretically, Crone.
I'm not sure how I feel about him. The match against Leg, I feel like Gorillas should have won that. And if they did, Toronto obviously would have been 0-2. The London match was weird to me. I think I might have missed half that match if I'm being honest with you. But I still they look good. They've been like this the whole year though. It's kind of like they didn't put up the best stats, but they still win, which is like that's a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I think Zero just went off on that one series, but I don't know who do they verse this weekend. FaZe.
Yeah.
They play
Boston, OpTic. Ooh.
They play OpTic too? Oh shit, they do too.
On to OpTic, I'm looking forward to that.
They just play us on COD Gamepedia. The schedule is wrong. So we play them on Friday. They changed the schedule because Friday's Canada Day. So if you look at the CDL, the CDL site will have it. But they play us this week, and then they play Boston and Texas on the third week. So, but I'm a little bit concerned because they went 1 in 3 in hardpoint, and they went 1 in 2 in S&D. I don't think they'll ever be a 500 or hardpoint team. They haven't been all season. They've been ranked 11th, and Money Hill Stats is hardpoint elo. They haven't been close to getting out of that either. A big concern of mine is Kleenex just hasn't seemed to be that potent this year. He has a 0.74 for the stage. 52% of his he has a 52 tests, which means only 52% of his engagements are positive. He has a 68 Slayer rating. He has a 0.73 in hardpoint. He has a 0.76 in S&D. He has a 0.74 in control. He has a 0.82 on defense in control too, which is really concerning. His damage per life in control is only a 94, which is the lowest in the league. No, it's a low, but not the lowest in the league. It's low. There's just been something that hasn't clicked for him in this game. I just don't think he has not been Cold War Kleenex. Even in the past stages, he's never been, completely lights out. So that's something to look forward to. If he plays really, really well, the rest of the stage or Major 4, they're gonna need him to turn over and play really well. Because now Cammy's playing decent. Cammy played in hardpoint in S&D, but he played lights out in control. He had a 1.4, and Kleenex had a 1.42. So they need something to change in hardpoint. No one's positive in hardpoint. The highest KD they have is a 0.9. Kleenex is a 0.73. They just don't look like they're cohesive. It kind of reminds me of Florida. Kleenex is playing at too fast of a pace, maybe. The other team is not playing together as a unit. So I don't know. They're gonna need to change something with them. They're gonna have to change.
Kleenex is the key, really.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. He had a 0.75 in both series this week, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is not good enough. It's okay when you win, but when you lose, it's what's going on there?
Even then, he's their star player. I would say it's the same thing as Shotzzy.
Yeah, that's true.
If people are going to be angry at Shotzzy for a 0.9, and then you go to this team and the same caliber of player has a 0.75, I think he should be getting just as much more criticism than Shotzzy has been getting. You know what I mean? That's just my thing. I feel like he needs to get back up there for Toronto to be a top 4 team. Anyone outside of the top 3 right now is pretty even. It's pretty close. It's the most competitive year for the midfield, I think, for literally 4 through 11. But for them to establish themselves at the top of that pecking order, they need Kleenex to play at least a level of Afro of I don't know, I don't know. He just has to get a little bit back to the form he had. He's seen it. We've seen it in maps this season. He just has to be more consistent.
Agreed.
I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah,
No,
I
Good point.
agree. It's a strange one really because like Insight, I think Bance was honestly like their best player at the start of the year. Insight then came into his own and has been really consistent. And then Cammy and Kleenex both were somewhat underwhelming. And I think Cammy's kind of hitting form lately, and Kleenex was kind of hitting form, but still on a more inconsistent level than we saw last year. And yeah, that's the issue really, is that Bance is not going to do incredible things in the slaying department. Like Kleenex needs to be the guy that drops like a 1.1 with like unreal engagements and is the key deciding factor in a series. And if they don't have that, then they're really going to struggle. But it's a weird one because it seemed like in stage 3 they figured it out, right? Their rough period, they stuck with the roster, and then stage 3 they figured it out, and all of a sudden top 3 again, 12-3 in search and destroy, splitting the respawns with the best teams. Job done. That's the Toronto method. So I think just I'm not too concerned yet. I think maybe it's kind of a regression to the mean thing where Clinics had 2 bad series and he's going to get back to a good level. But the issue is that their 2 not great series happened against teams that they, will think they should have beaten, and their harder series come from here, Crone.
Yeah, I think Austin's right with we were critiquing Shotzzy. We need to do the same with Kleenex as well. But I think Kleenex has been decent this season. I think in my MVP leader he was voted 10th. I'm pretty sure I didn't have him in my top 10 when I voted, but other people obviously did.
I don't quite think so.
Yeah, that's something where I think it's his name recognition. Like you think that he would be the reason behind it. Personally, I think Insight's been kind of more impactful. Cammy, maybe for the season, like they're all kind of level. I don't think any of them should be in the MVP race yet. The thing that I'm just a little bit like, the only reason why I'm hard on Kleenex is because I know he can be great. I know he can do more. That's the same reason why people are hard on Shotzzy at time, like when the fan base get on him, because they know he can reach levels that other SMGs in the league can't. And like that's something I think I hold Kleenex in the same boat. Like he can reach levels that is not being hit right now. And if you are playing kind of lackluster versus LAG in London, how are you supposed to fare when you play Texas in Atlanta, coming up? I'm sure Boston, that would be more of a closer matchup. That's actually a matchup I really want to see for seeding purposes. But like it's going to be a really tough week for them. They'll have to like really come out with a fire. I think they always play us really close. I want to see how they play Texas. I think Texas will be a real telling matchup.
Agreed. Always an exciting one, theoretically. But yeah, that's going to happen the week after this. Let's talk then as we finish out the show. If you guys got any questions, by the way, leave them in the chat, because we're going to do quick kind of predictions, or we don't really tend to do predictions. We just kind of highlight important matches or matches to watch really of the week before we close out the show. But yeah, I've put the updated schedule there in the chat just because the one on COD Gamepedia seemingly is updated as Austin mentioned right there. But yeah, FaZe Ultra kicks off the week. That's great. I mean, yeah, I'll throw it to you, Austin, real quick, just to kind of pick out a couple, because I need a little bit of time to look through. But OpTic versus Paris, baby. Come on, Donny Temp, let's go.
I mean, personally, I always think like us and Toronto is a really good series, even though they haven't obviously beaten us since last season in stage 2. Like every time we play, it's usually like lights out. It's good Call of Duty. So I'm always excited to see us play. For just like a random, seeding matchup, Minnesota versus London. Right now, London's stats, when you look at them, remind me of Boston from when Zinni was just absolutely lighting it up. Zero has a 1.58. He's leading the league. Looks unkillable, right? And then Nasty is
series, right?
Yeah,
I believe so, right? And then the other guys obviously are doing good. I just want to see them, because I really do think they've now taken that 4 spot. I think they're in good form right now, like really good form. I think they're going to be kind of back where they were in stage 1, especially because they're confident. These guys are really confident. They're really like momentum swinging. So like when their momentum is swung really high up right now, and they're confident, I think they'll be good. Minnesota needs that win. They need that win bad. That's a win where they're going to want to steal, because they play London, Paris, and Seattle, right? Obviously, you can think of what you want with the Paris one. I think Seattle should have that win. So that leads a very, very important match versus London to make it out of make it the winners bracket. So that's going to be really important, especially because their map pool's 3 and 4 right now. So they're going to need to play lights out versus London.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm on the
Crone, what
Paris.
do you
I'm
think?
on the Paris hype train for both their matches. I'm excited for both their matches against OpTic and
Paris 2-0.
Thieves as well. Maybe. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm on the hype train. I also am interested in Royal Ravens, both of their matches, Rock against Rocker and Mutineers as well. I think those both be good matches. But
Yeah, I
definitely,
think that's
eager to see Paris.
Yeah, I mean, the London one is actually really interesting, as you mentioned, Austin, just because back to back, they play both teams that are kind of like fighting it out for the champ spot. So it's like if London win one of those but lose the other one, like that's a massive point swing potentially for whichever team that happens to. I think that Surge New York I'm looking forward to because that's can New York continue the train? Like, can they get revenge for the Game 5 round 11 loss at the major? I do think they're the second best team in that series, though. So, like, I can't realistically predict them to win, but I'm looking forward to that one because Surge are kind of locked and New York are going to think that they have a good chance there based on what happened at the major. The other series that I really want to highlight is Boston versus LAG because that is LAG's. Let's assuming that LAG lose to FaZe. That is an absolute must win for Gorillas. If they don't win that, they're 100% chalked. If Boston win that, that pretty much guarantees champs, you would think. Not guaranteed, but, good enough. So that's a really exciting series, I think, to open out Sunday. And obviously, OpTic Subliners is always a good one. Crim versus Shotzzy can kind of Shotzzy continue the streak of not being able to beat former teammates. I don't know about that one, if that's even a true thing anyway. But Crim versus OpTic is always a fun time as well. So yeah, that Sunday to me is an absolute banger because we've got Breach Gorillas, which is incredibly crucial. Paris play Thieves, which is going to be fun because then again, like Thieves might play them on the AR maps where Paris will get smoked, but still, I think that could be interesting. And then OpTic New York to finish out the week. So Sunday's a banger this week, Austin.
Yeah, I think Sunday should be good, because that's just it's just must wins all around. Because even OpTic's gonna want to win that to get up in the winners bracket because obviously they're 0-2. Paris will put them at 1-2. So they'll need at least 1 or 2 more wins. So this will be a big match for both teams. I just love how like this week is just loaded with really good matchups. So it should be a great week.
Let's take a couple questions before we finish out the show. I've seen a question here from Supernova, and I've seen people talking about this lately, whether Modern Warfare 2 will go back to 5 versus 5. I'm 99.9% sure that's not going to happen, right? It's going to be 4v4. Surely.
Teams don't want to play 5 people.
That's also a good point. They don't want to pay them money. And I'd have thought that really once they went 4v4, they can't realistically go back within a couple of years. Will the game play better 4v4? Because I think HECZ did some tourney, right, where they played 4v4 Modern Warfare before the season began. And Hardpoint was like much better to watch 4v4 than it was 5v5. And it actually looked quite good. Like Modern Warfare actually looked like a decent competitive game, 4v4 Hardpoint. Which does make me quite excited actually about Modern Warfare 2, even though I'm going to stop getting excited because it always backfires.
Yeah, I don't think you ever see the return of 5v5. I think that was more towards getting closer to like CS, Overwatch. Like that's just not at all what Call of Duty has ever been. It's always been 4v4. So I would never expect that to go back. If anything, I'm kind of interested to see how
3v3
extended rosters go. Like I really do think the missed opportunity that we see in the league is S&D substitutes coming in. Like I can pretty much guarantee if Pac was to come in for any team and be an S&D player, he would have a top 5 S&D KD in the league. It's just he just doesn't know respawns like at all. He's never played them, never will. He's always been an S&D kid, and he would absolutely crush. He crushes these kids every night, literally. So that's something where I don't know. I don't see that. I want to see that change. I don't know if it will, but like that's something in the rulebook that's there that hasn't been used very much. Literally, it's been used once since Modern Warfare. So I think that could be something in the future that kind of grows. Having academy kids that are really good at S&D, like Johnny. Yeah, Johnny's amazing in S&D, but you don't really. How
many times have we seen someone sub in during a series? Was it only
twice.
Seattle.
And Mech was mid-series, right?
No.
Was he?
For what?
No, he came back. He came back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The other time was when Kenny was getting DDoSed.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Dashy came in.
Yeah, the Enable
Game
one in
5.
Modern Warfare is kind of the famous one where they subbed him out for the search and then they never subbed him back in for the respawns. And
Yeah.
then he got dropped the next. So he literally got dropped mid-series and then retired, that's quite the storyline, really. But yeah, I do agree with you. I wonder how long it'll be until teams give that a go, because I honestly thought that Florida might be trying to make it happen with the kind of what we saw in scrims the other day. Because like the roles don't necessarily matter so much in search. It's like chemistry is obviously important, but you can run whatever gun you want in search on defense, especially, and it'll work. Like you don't have to worry so much about pacing. So it doesn't really matter like what your composition is necessarily. You just want good S&D players that are practiced with each other. So I think, I don't know, it's one of those things that because it's allowed in the rulebook, you feel like one team eventually is going to get on top of it and like make it a thing.
Change the meta. Yeah.
And then other teams are going to be like, damn, we might need to think about this. Because, I mean, maybe there's a couple of guys that you want. I just wish a team would try it out. I know Ben tried to make it happen last year, and I thought it was going to happen maybe at times this year. But yeah, I agree. I just don't know how many players there are out there that are viable. Because I agree with Tupac, he's like the perfect guy. But obviously, FaZe are FaZe. So I don't know how many other options there really are out there that see S&D to that level that they can actually make a major difference. Because of course you do also have to, like there are other factors in play, right? Let's say you're in a grand finals, best of 11. You're down, okay, you're down 4-0. You're coming back, it's 4-1, it's 4-2. The momentum's there with the team. You're feeling good going into a search. And then your guy who's just dropped like 50 in the hard point gets subbed out and your S&D guy comes in and he's not really warmed up. And like that, it does create a bit of difficulty. But I do think maybe in an online league match, it's more viable. I don't know if you think it matters the setting, Austin.
It'll be tough for sorry, bro. Just quickly say this.
Good.
It'll be tough to practice as well. Like if you have a challenger player that you want to sub in, it's like, well, he has to practice with his challenger team. Was he practicing with challenger team? Was he practicing with his CDL team? So I think it'll be hard there as well.
I mean, you could do third sets, where you do S&D only if you wanted to do like S&D like that way. So there's ways to work around it. I know in Valorant you used to. I don't know. You don't really see it too much anymore. You see like specific agent comps where players would come in and come out. So I definitely think it's just an untapped like potential. Because you've seen it this year. There's a lot of rookies that have come in that are pretty good on the S&D side, but not as polished on the respawn side. There's a lot of like S&D only kids that are really good at S&D that can make an impact on that. Even if you sign them literally just to scrim against them. We haven't really seen that since the EU Cadets days. And I think that, I mean, it is what you get out of it.
In Modern Warfare? They had like an A team and a B team.
Who did? Well, Toronto did, but that was because...
I don't know if they utilized it.
Yeah, that was for a different reason.
They had like, they were just trying to find like their team, I guess.
Yeah. So I think that's just an untapped potential that we could see in the future. I know I got DM'd on Twitter. Somebody did ask me. Let me bring up Misty. Daryl Smith asked me if you ever think there's ever going to be a dedicated COD game for competitive. Personally, I think that's never ever gonna happen. I don't know how you guys feel about that, or even like dedicated like game modes or like maps that are
not under
specifically
Activision
competitive. Yeah,
they make their money off the casuals, so that's the bread and butter.
Yeah,
unless Microsoft changes the philosophy, if they buy Activision, then I can see Microsoft having a different idea on what they want to do with COD. But Activision, there's no way. They love money too much. Obviously, Microsoft love money as well. Don't get me wrong. But like, Activision they're the Disney or the Marvel. They'll just make it, milk it until it's dry, right? Activision do the same thing. And maybe Microsoft come in and say, okay, actually, maybe in the long run, it's going to be more profitable if we do this and try and actually build up the competitive scene that keeps people engaged in Call of Duty as a franchise in the long term. But that's not going to happen for at least the near future. So I doubt it's going to happen at all.
the only thing I see is maybe like they make changes to maps, like certain maps. that like you have a competitive map and then you have like a public map where if there's something that doesn't work, let's say like I don't know specifically, but if you needed to like change certain things for a public map, and you can make those changes with a map editor, then maybe you could see that. Or if you could balance guns in private maps, like I swear we used to be able to do that, or some game used to be able to do that, where you could change some weapon values in private matches. You could do that. Maybe you could see something changing, that the game is a little bit different compared to the private and public. That's the only thing. I don't think there's ever going to be like a set map or set game.
Yeah, well, agreed. You know what? Hopefully we get the best, but I think that's a good place to leave it for today. So thanks for joining me, gents. Had a great show, and we'll be back next week with another one. This week, honestly, I think might be one of the best sets of matches that I've seen in a long time. The storylines are off the charts with the teams that need victories, teams that are in the dumps, teams that are on the up. Paris Legion going to go 2-0 against OpTic and Subliners. We'll see if that happens next week. But thanks, guys, for joining, as always. Thanks all for watching along in the chat on YouTube and Twitch, and also after the fact on all the podcast platforms, the audio ones. We really appreciate all the support, the 5 stars, the reviews. Helps us out a ton. And yeah, that's going to do it for today. We'll be back next week, hopefully one day earlier. Thanks for watching, as always. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.